We are here in Rome, and our guest this evening is none other than the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Honorable Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. Dr. Adesina, welcome to our program, and we are an honor from the FAO for Nigeria's efforts in achieving MDG goal number 1. How do you feel?
Well, it's actually very exciting. To be able to achieve MDG Goal 1, it tells you that Nigeria has worked very hard on this. If you look at the proportion of our population that's actually undernourished, it was 19.3% in 1990-92. Today, we are down to 8.5%. The target that was set for us to achieve by 2015 was 9.7%. And so that means that we've actually achieved this 3 years ahead of schedule, well ahead of this target that was set for us by 2015. We are also very excited because it also means that our cultural programs are working, because agriculture is the very basis, for making sure that you have a lot of food, secure your food supply, and that you have well-diversified, nutritious food. So we're very excited, but that doesn't mean the job has been done.
What was the secret?
Well, basically, if you want to tackle hunger, there shouldn't be a situation where anybody actually goes to bed without food. So that's what we should really attain. But political will, strong political commitment, Nigerian government is very, very committed to that. We also have a situation where we have intersectoral work. It's not just agriculture, but we have agriculture, we have health, we also have issues of sanitation and education all interlinked to it. And finally is the fact that we are using quite a lot of private sector investments now to actually drive agriculture, because at the end of the day, if you're a farmer, if you have a lot of money, you can actually not only buy additional supplementary food that you need, but you can invest in housing, you can invest in sanitation and better nutrition for your kids. So I think our approach of agriculture as a business is the way to actually make sure that this actually gets sustained.
Yes, you talked about political will, but sometimes political will, especially in agriculture, comes with the financial resources. Would you say Nigeria is in fact invested adequate amounts in agricultural productivity?
In the last 18 months, we've been able to leverage about $8 billion of private sector investment commitments into this particular sector, from both foreign direct investments, but also from a lot of local investors. So we're actually doing a lot with the private sector, whether you are in seed or fertilizer, processing, storage, transport, everything about agriculture is a business. So we are not just looking at just increasing public financing, but we are also looking at actually leveraging a lot of private sector into agriculture, because agriculture is not a development program.
Tell us, what challenges then do you still meet, and how do you plan to address these challenges?
Well, first and foremost, as Minister of Agriculture, my goal is to make sure that we become a net exporter of food. Really, for us, the challenge remains making sure that our farmers, all of them, get the inputs they need, making sure that we get access to finance for them at affordable interest rate, which has to be single digit. And that's why Mr. President actually approved that we recapitalize our Bank of Agriculture, and also the Central Bank of Nigeria is working with us. We're using our own funds, not development finance, but our own funds, to leverage about $3.5 billion of the balance sheet of our banks into agriculture. So finance continues to be something that we continue to look at. And finally, of course, is the issue of infrastructure. And whether it's rural roads and making sure our irrigation facilities get well done. But you were mentioning the other time about the issue of allocations to agriculture. The National Assembly continues to play a very big role. I'm here today, in Rome with the chairman of the Senate Committee on Agriculture. I'm also here with the chairman of the House Committee on Agriculture. So it's a combination of support, big political support from Mr. President, a lot of support from the state, but also the National Assembly, because they are the one who actually appropriate money for us to get the job done.
You preempted a question that I was going to ask you, given about the mobile facility for farmers. Already you launched a mobile facility for farmers to access vouchers, and one of the reasons was in fact to keep corruption on the issuing of those vouchers. What impact has this made on farmers?
Well, huge, because for 40 years, fertilizers in Nigeria were bought and sold by government. And as that happened, no more than 11% of the farmers were actually getting the fertilizer. Sometimes they would bring in sand as fertilizer, half sand, half fertilizer. People will go and buy grain in the market and bringing in that seed and sell to farmers. So of course that was creating a lot of disincentives for farmers. And so what we did was at the start of this administration, with Mr. President's support, it took us exactly 90 days to end a corruption of 40 years. And so we decided that we have to reach our farmers directly, with input. And so that was why we did the electronic wallet. Now what happened with this was that the farmers could get their inputs on time. We could actually target them. Some people say, well, they couldn't, the farmers will not be able to understand how to use mobile phone. It's not true, they're not. The fact that you don't speak English doesn't mean that you're an illiterate. Out of the 4.9 million transactions that were done by mobile phone last year, 2.2 million of them were done in Hausa. 1.8 million of them were actually done also in pidgin language. And so the impact has been massive. We cut out the corruption, we cut out the middleman, we saved federal government money. We actually saved the federal government 25 billion, naira just last year. That's money I would have signed away as Minister of Agriculture by contract system.
Interesting that you have actually fought the issue of corruption in the voucher and the access to imports. I also want to know, what are you doing to fight the issue of climate change in Nigeria, given that we have had floods and this has in fact had a big impact on your food productivity?
Yeah, climate change is here to stay. But it's how you actually adapt to it that is very important. As you know, last year we had a very severe situation with flood, massive flood in the country that devastated a lot of our farmlands. But what we did was, we didn't panic. I know there was a lot of hues and cry as Minister of Agriculture that we should, create another floodgate and bring in a lot of imported food, but we didn't. We actually deployed a lot of high science instruments. We use remote sensing, satellite imagery. I brought in the International Water Management Institute, which is the world's leading center for water management, to assess for us how much area was inundated actually, how much of our crop are we going to lose, and when is that water going to recede, so we can do research on flood research on agriculture. And what we found out was really that despite all the amount of water we had, no more than 1.17% of our total production was affected by the flood. But secondly, what that meant for us is that we have to actually have better early warning systems. Secondly, is that we have to also do a lot of watershed management. People cannot just be cultivating along the banks of many of these major rivers, because when the floods come, that gets affected. But yet, last year it was flood. Today it could be drought, because that is what you get with climate change. So one of the things we are going to do now is to develop policy instruments that allows our farmers to have weather index insurance.
I was speaking to Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development from Nigeria. Minister, thank you so much for making the time to speak to us.
Thank you so much. It's good to be with you. Thank you.